Hi, I'm Jing, a software engineer on the Open Health Stack team at GoogleHealth. With Open Health Stack, our goal is to help accelerate the future of digital health by making it easier for developers everywhere to build next-generation healthcare apps. Previously in this series, we introduced the Android FHIR SDK, a set of Kotlin libraries to help you build Android apps using the HL7 FHIR standard. We learned about the FHIR engine library, the structured data capture library, and the workflow library. These libraries can help you manage FHIR resources on device, run the questionnaire UI to collect information that is FHIR compatible, or aid health workers through care pathways. However, additional information and knowledge is typically needed for these libraries to work well in different healthcare settings and geographical locations. For example, you may need a patient profile to conform to local data requirements, a list of health conditions your application is concerned with, or logic to determine what advice the health worker should receive given a patient's record. In FHIR, this type of information can be expressed as canonical resources, such as library, measure, plan definition, questionnaire, value set, and structure definition. These FHIR resources are different from FHIR resources that represent data related to individual patients and other healthcare entities. In this video, we will introduce the Knowledge Manager library, a dedicated library that manages this type of FHIR resources on device. Let's take a look at how canonical resources we have just mentioned are different from FHIR resources that represent patient data. Canonical resources can be large since they include information that is applicable to large cohorts, and they tend to include binary data or blobs, whereas patient data tend to be highly structured and smaller pieces of information. Normally, canonical resources are read-only, and applications only need to download them from the repositories hosting them, whereas patient records are changeable over time and applications need to download and upload them from and to FHIR servers. Additionally, canonical resources are typically packaged as implementation guides published as FHIR packages. You can learn more about canonical resources and how they are packaged and published in the Canonical Resource Management Infrastructure Implementation Guide. Links are in the video description below. Given these differences, we created the Knowledge Manager library for canonical resources to complement the FHIR engine library for patient-related information. In your application, the FHIR engine library and the Knowledge Manager library should work hand in hand to combine patient records and canonical resources for complex tasks. For example, in your application, you may have used the structured data capture library to collect the patient data using FHIR questionnaires and use the FHIR engine library to store the collected patient data on device. Now, you can use the Knowledge Manager to import an implementation guide that includes plan definitions to be applied to patient data. The workflow library can then load the patient data from FHIR engine and load the plan definition from the Knowledge Manager and create a care plan for the patient by applying the plan definition. This completes the picture of how the 4 Android FHIR SDK libraries work together. If you haven't done so, make sure to check out our other videos for details on how to use the SDC library, FHIR engine, and the workflow library. Before we dive into the Knowledge Manager APIs, let's first take a look at the architecture of the library in order to gain a deeper understanding of how the library works. The library has 3 components: the npm package manager, the file store, and the index database. When the application requests a FHIR package through the Knowledge Manager API, the npm package manager will download the npm package containing the canonical resources from a FHIR package server. The content of the npm package will be unzipped and stored in the file store, and each resource will be indexed in the index database. This way, when a canonical resource in this package is requested, it can be quickly loaded and returned to the application. Now, let's take a look at how to use the Knowledge Manager APIs. First, you need to include Knowledge Manager in the dependencies of your application. Then, initialize an instance of Knowledge Manager by passing the application's context to it. You can also specify an optional directory for storing the downloaded npm packages and the URL of the package server to use. If unspecified, the Knowledge Manager will create a new directory to store the downloaded files, and it will use packages.phir.org as the default package server. Now, you can import published FHIR packages by specifying the package name and version. The library will automatically download the package and process the content. You can also index existing FHIR canonical resources locally. These might be resources already included in your application's APK. Simply call the index API with the file's URI and the library will do the rest. This is all you need to do to import resources to the Knowledge Manager. Now, when you initialize the workflow library, just make sure you pass the Knowledge Manager to the workflow library. As the workflow library is already integrated with Knowledge Manager, when the workflow library needs a canonical resource, you will be able to use Knowledge Manager to retrieve it efficiently. It is that simple. Now, you are using Knowledge Manager to manage canonical resources to be used throughout your application. To recap, the Knowledge Manager is a library that manages canonical resources in your application. You can use the APIs to import NPM packages or individual canonical resources. To learn more about the Android FHIR SDK libraries and other OHS components, explore our website and the Android FHIR SDK repository. Thank you.